Right. So to get the amount for transaction that occurred on the 24th, the discount allowed, you were supposed to take the full amount, which is 3,250. Then you minus the journal vouchers, which will give you 2,520. You times it by 5%, and then the discount will equal to 126. So Joshua, for discount allowed, this is not a discount allowed that you are granting. You are actually canceling a discount on an RD check. So which two accounts would you debit and credit when you are canceling a discount on an RD check?
Like debit Be Hopeful.
Yes.
I'm not sure about the account name, but you credit discount allowed.
Yes. So it is debit Be Hopeful because it's the name of the debtor, and then you credit discount allowed, and then what your amounts will go in your debit and credit column. It will also go in your debit column for debtors control. What will your narration be?
Discount cancelled on RT check.
Yes, it's discount cancelled on RD check. It doesn't matter how you worded it, but as long as you have those words in your narration, discount cancelled on RD check. Right, that's correct. What was important for that transaction is how you got the 126 Rand. So you needed to know the workings. Right, then the 25th, let's move on to the 25th. Read that transaction out, the 25th. Anybody, please read the 25th. We don't have enough time now, so please.
The owner, Mr. W. Falapi, was unhappy with some stock he had taken for his own use on the 8th. He returned 200 Rand cost price worth of stock to the shop.
Right, good. So the owner, now remember, always when we look at the owner, we always think of drawings. That's correct. When the owner is mentioned, it's drawings, but the owner did not take something for personal use. He returned. So you have to bear in mind, it's not like the other drawings which we've done previously. It is drawings, but now the owner is not taking the goods for personal use. He's returning the goods. So in this case, you need to think about which account you're going to debit and which account you're going to credit. Because normally, in a normal transaction, you debit drawings and you credit what the owner took for personal use. Now the owner is returning. So when the owner returns, you cannot debit drawings, you're going to credit drawings. So what would you debit in this case? What is the owner returning? That's the account that you would debit.
Debit trading stock, credit drawings.
Yes. Right, good. So the 25th is debit trading stock. The reason why you're debiting trading stock is because the owner is returning it. And you're crediting drawings. The owner is not taking something for personal use, he's returning stock. So therefore you are crediting drawings. And then the amounts will be 200 in the debit column and 200 in the credit column. Right, good. And the narration is owner returned goods or returned stock. Right, that's good. It's different from the previous transactions. Right, then now the 27th is an error. Please, I need you to participate with errors because with an error, I can't teach you a rule. I can only teach you a method. So when it comes to error, determines if you get the question right is how you read it. Yes?
You say the narration.
For the previous one?
Yes.
It's owner return stock.
Is it fine if we say owner return stock taken?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Right, now the next one is the 27th. What I'm trying to say to you about errors is it determines how you read the transaction. So if you don't read it correctly or you perceive it in a different manner, then you're going to get the transaction wrong. So it all determines your reading, is determined on your reading skills. So that is the reason why you would notice when I'm doing general journal, my method of teaching is different. I'm asking each person to have a chance to read the transaction and then from there you're going to tell me what you're debiting and crediting. Because when you read something, you understand, and at the same time, you'll be able to pick up where the error took place, what account you have to debit and credit. It's not like a method like how when I teach you general ledger and I say to you, this is what you have to debit, this is what you have to credit. This errors is determined on the nature of the transaction. So who wants to have a chance now to read the 27th? Please give Joshua and a break and call a fellow because they participate all the time. So others need to have a chance to learn as well. So please, somebody try. There's no right and wrong answer. I will guide you. So read the 27th. Who's on? Oh, it's only, basically it's only three of you and Tapang, sorry. So anybody, can you have a chance because it's only Joshua, Kolofelo and Tapang that's on. Read it out. Anybody, Kolofelo, you read now.
The overdue account of J. Hapfort was charged 90 Rand interest. This was incorrectly posted to the account of V. Hopeful. The error must be corrected.
Right. It's a good transaction. It's not that difficult. Let me just explain. The right person that was supposed to be charged for the interest was J. Hapfort, isn't that so?
Yes.
Yes. So they post, instead of charging J. Hapfort the interest, they charge V. Hopeful.
V. Hopeful.
So, yes. So you need to know what is interest on overdue account. It's when you are charging your debtor interest.
Yes, ma'am.
So instead of charging, as I said, they were supposed to charge J. Hapfort, they charge V. Hopeful. So it means they debited V. Hopeful. So now what are you going to do? You're going to credit V. Hopeful because you're taking out the interest from his account and you're going to debit the correct debtor. So who is the correct debtor in this case? Yes, good. Right, good. So tell me now the whole transaction, what would you debit, what would you credit, and the narration.
You debit J. Hapfort and then you credit V. Hopeful. Then your narration will be interest on overdue account.
Corrected error.
Yeah, but it's the same thing.
No, it's corrected error, not interest on overdue account.
Okay, yeah, corrected error.
Where's ma'am?
She's gone.
Where's everyone else?
Sorry, I'm on. Sorry, I was on mute. Interest on overdue account is when you're charging the interest on overdue account, and it means you're crediting interest income. You're not using interest income now, isn't that so? You are just correcting the two debtors. So the narration cannot be interest charged. The narration is error corrected.
Okay,
that's the narration. It's only, this is a specific one because remember previously when we credit interest income, then our narration is interest charge on overdue account. That's correct. But what happened now is they posted it to the incorrect debtor. So we are making a correction by posting it to the correct debtor. So the correct narration will be error corrected. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
And please don't forget, Kolofelo, in this transaction, you also need to show the 90 Rand in the debtors control debit and debtors control credits.
Yes.
Because remember, both of them are also debtors.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, good. Right, and the last transaction, only Joshua and Kolofelo is on and Tapang. So Joshua, you can read the last one.
Tapang left.
Okay, so it's you. So read the last transaction.
A discount of 1,170, which was received from B. Badger wholesalers, was incorrectly entered in the cash payments journal as 1,070 Rand and posted as such. The error must be corrected.
Right, good. So there's an error that must be corrected. So we know it's going to be the correction of error. But do you have the discount amount that you're going to correct? Or
Discount.
do you have to work it out?
You have to work it out. So they gave you the discount of 1,170, and the amount
Yes.
that was posted was 1,070. So the difference
So what would you?
the difference is
100
100
rand.
rand.
Okay, good. So now what would you do? So you know that the amount is the difference, which is 100 rand. So now what would you do? Tell me, what are you going to debit and what would you credit? You can try, I'll correct you if you...
Debit bank.
Remember, yes, debit?
Debit bank, credit
Yes.
discount received.
Right, you're partly correct. At least you got your amounts right, so you would earn your marks by your amounts, and discount received is credited. But the only thing, you lose 1 mark because you don't debit bank. Let me tell you why you don't debit bank. Who is this discount received for? From. Because remember, discount received is when the business is receiving a discount. So it's a discount received for the business is an income. So who are they receiving the discount from?
B Badger wholesalers.
Yeah, so it means you don't debit bank, you debit B Badger. So the correct entry will be debit B Badger wholesalers, credit discount received. The amount will be debit column 100, credit column 100. The narration is error corrected. And then remember, B Badger, every time you have discount received is normally received by the business, so it's an income. So you debited B Badger. In this case, B Badger is the creditor because you can only receive a discount from your creditor. So it means that you also have to go to the creditors. The first time you're using the creditors control column now. So you have to go to the creditors control column. In the debit column, you got to record 100 rand. Now, I know what you said, bank. I understand from your point of view why you would have said bank is because discount received is an income. You debited bank because you said that the money would be, bank would increase with an income. But in this case, you need to understand that you didn't receive the income from bank, you received it from a creditor. So it means if you receive the discount from a creditor, your creditor's control is going to decrease because when the creditor when you receive a discount from your creditor, it means you are owing the creditor less because they gave you a discount, so that means you are owing them less. So that is why you debit creditor, which is B Badger in this case. It's not bank because the discount will not go to bank. The discount will be offsetted against your creditor's control account. That's what you need to realize here. So that's why those are the things that we should have been discussing. I'm glad it came out in this transaction because discount received goes together with a creditor and discount allowed goes together with the debtor. So you need to bear in mind that type of transaction. So from the general journal, it's the first time that you actually recorded something in your creditor's control column. So what will give you the keyword is a discount allowed goes together with your debtor, and a discount received goes together with your creditor. You need to remember that. So that's the last transaction. So taking that into consideration, you need to total up your debtor's control columns, and now you even have a creditor's control column. So if you are finishing off your general journal in 6.14, your columns now, your debtors control debit column will equal to 1,206. Your debtors control credit column will equal to 1,350. And then lastly, your creditors control column debit has 100 rand and there's 0 in the credit column. So that's the full general journal. Do you have any questions on that? I think the discount received will be the trickier one. Is there any other questions that you have on that transactions?
What are the transactions for creditors?
Okay, another transaction that can affect creditors is when you make an error between two creditors. Like, let me just give you a typical example. Say, for example, you have two creditors. One is called ABC creditor, and the other one is called BCD creditor. So instead of posting to, just say you posted in error to BCD creditor. So that means you credited BCD creditor in error. So it means to correct that error, you will have to debit BCD creditor and credit the correct creditor, which is ABC in this case. So it's between two creditors. So you need to pay attention to the name of the creditors. It's similar to what we've done with debtors. So the other things that can affect creditors is when there's two creditors, but you incorrectly credited the wrong creditor, so you have to go and debit that creditor and go and credit the correct creditor. That's the only other type of transaction you can get. And then the other one, I think, that could be when you allow a creditor's allowance. Do you know what's a creditor's allowance?
Yeah.
It doesn't really come out, but it will come out when I'm going to teach you the next section of work. After General Journal, I'm going to teach you all reconciliations for debtors and creditors. Then the creditor's allowance will also come out there. But at least let me just give you a briefing on it. So what happens with creditor's allowances means that the business, return goods back to the creditor. So if the business returns goods back to the creditor, what happens in that case? Isn't you owing your creditor less?
Yes.
When the business returns goods to the creditor, is the business owing the creditor less?
Yes.
Yes. So that is the reason you could have a transaction with creditor's allowance, but it can be an error. Like, remember we had one, I don't know, it was in the same transactions here. We had a debtor that it was between V Hopeful and B Hopeful, where we corrected an error. I think it was the 13th, if I'm not mistaken, where the debtor returned goods, but it was posted to the wrong debtor. Do you remember the 13th?
Yeah.
So we could have one like that, where you get two creditors with similar names. But you could have posted the return of goods to the incorrect creditor. So in the case, like, just say you have B Smith and A Smith. So maybe B Smith returned goods. So instead of debiting B Smith, you would have debited, because when you have a return of goods, it means you debit the creditor because they're owing you less. So instead of debiting B Smith, you might have debited A Smith. So what are you going to do in that case? You're going to now credit A Smith and you're going to debit the correct debtor, which is B Smith. Again, it's an error, but it affects two creditors. So then let me just explain things that can affect the creditor is discount received, which is number 28. And then the other things that can affect the creditor's control is when you incorrectly post amounts between two creditors. That means you have to correct the amounts between two creditors as well as the creditor's accounts. And then the last thing that can affect creditors is when the creditor when you return goods to the creditor and then you posted it to the incorrect creditor. So then you have to see or read the transaction to see which creditor was incorrectly debited. Then you go and credit him and debit the correct creditor. So it's all dealing with errors. But you will get your answer from reading your transaction. Hopefully there's one like that. I don't think the creditor's allowance comes out as much as debtors. They mainly focus on the debtors one. That's why you would see that in 6.14. But in the event that a creditor's one comes out, let me just give you one example. Maybe take it down if you want to, and then just like write it as an example in your books. I'll give you a transaction, and then you tell me what you need to do. Can I give you the transaction? Can you all take it down? Okay, I'll read it out. This is just my own transaction, but relating to creditors. You don't have to record it in 6.14, just as an additional information. So right there, let me just think of two creditors' names. Okay, right, BB Suppliers. BB Suppliers. was incorrectly debited with an amount of 420. So BB Suppliers was incorrectly debited with an amount of 420. Full stop. This transaction is relating to goods returned by the business to BC Suppliers. This transaction is relating to goods returned by the business to BC Suppliers. Full stop. So now you have to take it in stages. I first said to you who was the incorrect creditor that was debited. And then my second transaction says that the business returned goods to the creditor. The correct creditor was supposed to be BC Suppliers. Take a minute and tell me what would you debit, what would you credit, and what would your narration be?
Okay. BC.
What would
no,
you debit?
BC Suppliers.
Yes.
Debited. BP
Good.
Suppliers credited.
Yes.
Narration corrected error, and what's this post amounts in the creditors control column as
Column.
yeah. So for
And your normal debit and credit column, isn't that so? Yes, that's correct. But you see what you need to realize? You need to realize where the error took place. If you realize where the error took place, then you figure out what you're going to debit and credit. Do you understand, Colofello?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so then that's the things that can affect creditors now, if you beside discount received. Right. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this memo what we just discussed, because it also gives you the general ledger accounts. To go to the general ledger account for stationery and consumables, you'll find it in the memo. I'll post it right now and I'm done onto your WhatsApp group so you can mark it. You can check your debit and credit columns. It's quite easy. So I'm not going to go through the general ledger because it tells you what account is debited, what account is credited, the amount and the journal. You can mark that on your own. That's the second part of this activity. And it also gives you the general ledger as well as the debtors ledger. I'm going to give you the full memo. I'll post it. So what I'm going to do in the next half an hour, you'll find I'm going to give you an activity. I'm not going to put it on Google Classroom because most people read this WhatsApp group. So I'm going to make it a clear copy and put it on WhatsApp. An activity, remember the study guide that I have. It's got a good general journal question. Because New Era, if you look at your New Era textbook, the general journal 6.14 is the last activity that has 3 stars. So I've got additional questions that you can maybe work through the weekend, and then the next Zoom lesson will be next week now. And I want to tell you that for accounting, I'm not sure what's happening at the HP school, whether we're returning back or not. It depends on the survey they're doing with parents. But we're going to continue with Zoom lessons. And then for accounting grade 10, the Zoom lessons, according to my timetable, because they've given each teacher a timetable, I'm on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So please make note of that. There's not going to be clashes because each teacher is following their own timetable. We did our timetable, so there's no clashes with physics and other subjects. So accounting is on accounting is on Tuesday and Thursday.
At what time?
And then the time for accounting, you see, I teach grade 10 and 11. So grade 11 is in the morning. So they've given me grade 11 from 10 to 11. So for accounting grade 10, I'm in the afternoon. So for accounting grade 10, I'm from 2 to 3. Because remember, they work with the timetable as if you're like in school till 4 o'clock. Like how you were coming to school, but it's Zoom lessons now if you're working online. So for accounting on Tuesday and Thursday, you will have lessons if it's Zoom lessons. For grade 10, it's from 2 to 3. Yeah, it's 2 to 3. Yeah, so please take that time down. Accounting, grade 10 is Tuesday and Thursday, 2 to 3, and then I have grade 11s at 10 to 11. Then there's other teachers teaching in between, so it has clashes with the subjects, so we have to follow that time slot. Like now, I had freedom for this week. I could give you any time as long as you all were available. But from next week, we're following a timetable. So accounting is on Tuesday and Thursday from 2 to 3. So for next week, Tuesday, I'm going to post activities. I'm going to give you more than one because you have the weekend and you also have Monday that you can use. I'll give you 2 activities where you work through it. We only go through the things that give you the challenges because we can't go through word by word now, like how we're doing these transactions, because by now you should know some of the transactions. So what I'll suggest, when you're working through the transactions, highlight the ones that are giving you a problem. And then those are the ones I'm going to discuss in my Zoom lesson on Tuesday. I'll be posting it by 12:30. You'll get the activities. It will be on your WhatsApp group. I'm giving you 2 activities. You'll do it in your accounting notebooks, and you highlight the transactions that are giving you a problem. So then I will discuss it on Tuesday from 2 to 3. Is that fine? Do you have any other questions from your side?
No.
Because they said to us they're having a survey with parents, and I don't know what's going to happen next week with because according to Mrs. Pians, we might return to school. I was at school from Monday to Wednesday. They only gave us today and Friday. They said we can teach from home, and then we're supposed to be back on Monday again. But we don't know if learners are returning or not. It depends on the survey. So what's going to happen is maybe we have to teach learners at school, and then we also have to teach those that are at home. So maybe in the afternoons we'll do our homeschooling learners, and then during the day we'll do the learners that come to school. But all of that, I still need the finalized timetable from management like Mrs. Pians. So you will hear about it on your WhatsApp group. So just be informed and just continuously check your WhatsApp groups. But for now, our next lesson is on Tuesday from 2 to 3. Is that fine?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to end this meeting now, and then please check your WhatsApp group for the memo for today's activity, the full memo, and I'm going to post 2 activities that you need to do for Tuesday. So on Tuesday, people, I'm going to be concluding general journal. Then it will help if any other problems you face, because Joshua also does the work. So he can tell us if there's any other problems and the rest of them that are participating, so that I can discuss the problems with you on Tuesday. That I'm ending.